Hi, and welcome to another episode of Hot Takes with me, the Silver Fox. It's just occurred to me that my channel is 2 years old today. Still going, still thriving, and it's all down to you lot. Thank you, dear viewer, for sticking with me for 2 whole years. When I started the channel, I did not know how long it would last. It has changed from the early days, and if you go back and look at those early videos, they are awful, really. But we have evolved, we have changed, we've become much more professional, much more aware of what I'm doing, what I'm saying, and we have found our focus. At the early days, I was throwing everything at a wall and seeing what stuck, and it soon became apparent that there was one area where I seemed to do particularly well, and of course now I tend to concentrate on it. You all know what area that is. And so we move back into a story about that area, and in particular into Glasgow. And into a Glasgow that is now being overrun and inundated with a plague, a verminous plague of rats and mice. And there is no sign of any kind of Pied Piper coming to the rescue this time. And they can't blame Westminster either. This is a council issue, not a national issue. So we'll take a look at this to see why the rat problem in Glasgow is so much worse than anywhere else in Europe. Here goes. So here we go. It's a major problem, the rat problem. It's a council problem, not a national problem. It's down to the decisions made by the council, and the decisions they've made have led to this. But it is just truly awful. So SNP-led Glasgow suffer public health crisis as thousands of rats, I would suggest millions of rats, invade the city, and the council is blaming COVID of all things. COVID, for heaven's sake. There's not a rat alive today that was alive at the start of the COVID pandemic. They don't live that long. They're 2.5, 3 years and out. So all the rats at the beginning of COVID are now dead. This is their grandchildren, great-grandchildren, great-great-grandchildren. You can't blame COVID for policy, SNP policy. The nationalist-led Glasgow City Council is being inundated with complaints about rats and mice, and it's blamed the COVID pandemic for this, despite that ending years ago. But again, they want to pass the buck. They can't admit who the problem, who's at fault here, which is them. It's quite simply them. The only way you deal with this is vermin control. You've got to gas the tubes, gas the sewers, tons of poison down, everything. Marksmen with air rifles, that's why I had to pop the air rifle and take the rats out. You need this, and you've got to do it all over the place. Make king rats. Of course, you're going to get the animal rights lot will go, but you can ignore them because rats are vermin and they deserve to go. They, after all, are the ones that spread disease. Do you want the Black Death coming up? Pustulating buboes affecting the population of Glasgow. Seems to be the direction of travel, and it wouldn't surprise me if that was policy too. They do seem to have this agenda of trying to remove the lower orders, if you look the way they look at it, by underfunding the NHS. They tried it by putting disease into the old people's home. That worked, but now they're biting back, and they end up getting sued for it. Just simply underfunding the NHS, millions will die, and it won't be their fault. And of course, this is the same thing with the rats. If they allow the rats to thrive, it should spread disease nicely and get rid of loads of people. That seems to be their thinking. Scorched earth policy. Let's destroy everything. Anyway, Glasgow City Council is suffering a public health crisis as thousands of rats, it's millions, it's going to be millions of rats. You never get thousands of rats. It's a big city. Millions of rats invade the city, leaving bin men exasperated and risking serious injury. The vermin invasion has been labelled extremely dangerous by waste collectors, as the reputation of Scotland's biggest city is at stake. It's dangerous because not only do these things bite and cause physical injury, but of course they contain so many diseases. I think Lyme's disease at the very least is awful, and that's only the beginning of it. There's all sorts of things that go through from rats. And yet the council refuse point blank to accept that they're responsible, and refuse point blank to do anything about it. And that's, of course, because the biggest, fattest, sleekest rat of them all is probably busy wedging her ass into another 2 chairs of business class flights. She likes them. And so it's not a problem. The SNP council can afford to do this. They can afford to sort out the rat problem. After all, they can afford to fly their chief executive halfway around the world and business class, having to take up 2 seats to do it. And so they can surely afford to put a few rat catchers down the drains. Who knows? But Susan Aitken, she doesn't want to do that. She's thinking, no. If I spend money on rat catchers, I can't get my arses into a seat. She says, I can't get the Greggs pies down me fast enough. We previously told how the flagship street in the city, Sauchiehall Street, has been dug up. Have you seen it? If you haven't seen it, Google the images. It looks like a bomb zone. It looks like Gaza, where they've dug this up. Literally, it was a week before Christmas, and your prime shopping area looked literally like Gaza. And that's there, and no one's going down it. Half the shops are boarded up. There's rats running everywhere. And that really just sums up SNP of Scotland, doesn't it? If there's one image, picture it in your mind. Picture that. And that is the image that people have of Scotland, thanks to the SNP. New figures reported by Glasgow Live showed the extent of the rat problem in Glasgow, with tens of thousands of calls for help against a rising tide of vermin. Well, they mean the rats, not the SNP councillors. Just want to clarify that. Bin men are also scared to collect refuse through fears of getting bit and contracting life-threatening diseases, of which, as I say, there are many. The local authority received 22,766 calls for rats and 4,500 for mice between 2020 and 2021 and 22-23. This problem has gotten so bad, we're not American, and this problem has got so bad that some waste is being left due to safety fears. They're not even picking up the waste now because the rat problem is so bad that the guys charged with clearing the streets are afraid to go in. That is down to Aitken. That is down purely to Aitken. That noise, in case you heard the squeaky noise, was my dog coming in, looking at me, saying, "What you doing, Dad?" and then just backing out again. He thinks I'm mad. I'm talking to myself, you see. Anyway, Chris Mitchell, GMB cleansing convener, said, "I've been raising this issue for a number of years, telling the council it's a daily occurrence. It's having a detrimental effect on our members, and their mental health and their physical well-being. It's becoming extremely dangerous." But Aitken don't care. She's not the one going around the shittiest parts of the city, picking up other people's refuse, hoping not to get bitten by a huge sleek rat. Sherlock Holmes, wasn't it? The giant rat of Sumatra. Jesus, he'd have had worse time if he came to Glasgow, wouldn't he? Anyway, he said, 2 years ago, we had 2 members that were hospitalised because of rat bites and scratches. And you look at leptospirosis, Weil's disease, it's a new risk assessment. It can kill you. So this is becoming a public health crisis right across Glasgow. And at the moment it becomes a health and safety issue, they are, by law, obliged to sort it out. And the very fact that they're not means they are breaching that law. And the wonderful thing, the best thing of all about the health and safety law, is that now that they have been made aware of it, they are, and this is the great bit, personally responsible. The corporation is responsible, sure. But because they're aware, if they don't do something about it, they too are personally responsible. And for breaching health and safety law, there is no maximum prison time. There is no maximum fine. It only takes one person who catches a disease now that they've been officially informed, where no action to mitigate that risk has been taken. He can then sue not just the council, but he can sue Aitken herself. That'll wipe the smile off her smug, fat face, won't it? Because let's face it, rats only thrive where food is left and where wrappers are left and where bits fall out. So you imagine around Aitken is a whole ring, a whole nation of rats feeding off the detritus. As, she's pushing that Greggs in as quickly as she can. He said, we monitor closely the reports received by our pest... This is the council. said, "We monitor closely the reports received by our pest control team and we're working hard on how we can best address the circumstances reflected in these recent figures." Well, I suggest sending rat catchers out, getting hold of professionals, rent-a-kill, things like that. Get them out and get half the people in rent-a-kill in the country and then total UK up there, a couple of weeks, and sort out the problem. Simple. Glasgow is not the only Scottish region to be suffering from rat infestations, although it has the most reports in the country. Across the whole of the country, there has been about 50,000 reports made to councils and 21,000 made about mice. It is a big problem, but Glasgow, of course, is the core of it. But then Glasgow has, as I say, the biggest rats in the country running the council. I suppose they're not getting rid of the rats because it's, I don't know, professional courtesy. Coming up. So who are all the SNP supporters going to blame this one? All those people living in Glasgow who vote for the SNP, who put the SNP council in, who are they going to blame? They can't blame Westminster. This has nothing to do with Westminster. This is a council thing. Pest control, never anything to do with Westminster. It's them. Now, if Glasgow Council can afford to fly, like I say, Susan Aitken halfway around the world, business class, filling her face full of caviar, champagne, having a couple of weeks out there in the sun, all at fully expensed by the taxpayer, and not just her, all her hangers-on and, kiss asses and all that, and all the obsequious little, turd boys that hang around next to her. "I love you, Susan. Please give me promotion, Susan." All of them. They all lick spittles and things like that. They can fly a whole team like that out there at business class. Surely they can pay rent-a-kill a few quid to go in and sort out the rats. Hey, where's the fun in that? Where's the fun in rats? Well, SNP supporters of Glasgow, you voted for them. They're your rats. Thanks for watching. Stay safe, stay well, and I will speak to you later. Bye.